The illusion is thick, and no matter how strong of a leader you think you are, you can still become affected by the fear within our energetic field. In this episode of Potent Truth, I shed light on what it takes to lean into your power of discernment. Tune in and learn why truth is subjective, the importance of listening to your body to uncover your truth, 6 steps to utilize your power of discernment in triggered moments, how to start trusting your inner knowing, what it means to lead responsibly during these times, and 3 tips to use discernment with responsibility. Now, I am inviting you to join me live at Soul Revival 2022, hosted by my soul brother, Dr. Brett Jones. This is a 1-day transformative and fully immersive event that's taking place March 26th in Tucson, Arizona. In-person and virtual tickets are available. Link for that is in my show notes, and I truly hope to connect with you in person at Soul Revival 2022. As a reminder, my book, Potent Leadership, is available on Amazon and Audible. Grab your book at potentleadership.com. Now, whether you are a loyal podcast listener or brand new to Potent Truth, please take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. Every single download, rating, and review helps get this podcast out to more listeners around the world. And it's a great way to score brownie points with me. Now it is time to discuss the power of discernment in a time of illusion. Beyond the narrative, underneath the veil of illusion, and deep within your center, therein lies potent truth. Welcome to Potent Truth, where today's leaders, changemakers, and light carriers come together to question the narrative, arrive at potent truth, and lead with sovereignty. What is potency? It's who you are beneath the masks, facades, and protective gear. It's the medicine humanity yearns for, cries out for, prays for, and needs. Your potency is what sets you apart, magnetizes your following, and creates movements. Join me, Ruby Fremon, for weekly guidance, channeled messages, and potent conversations that will take you on a journey of self-discovery. I am here to guide you to a place of unraveling the programming that's been keeping us stuck for generations, unlocking potent truth and expressing it through sovereign leadership. It's time for change. It's time for potent truth. Hey leaders, and welcome to another episode of Potent Truth. It feels like the times continue to become more challenging. It feels like as soon as we're done with one thing, those in perceived power throw another. But of course, for those of us who are privy to the agenda, we know this is literally the agenda rolling out. This is how things have been planned for years. Yet, because of the fact that we are still human beings with very human experiences and very human feelings and emotions, even us, the toughest of the bunch, the strongest of the bunch, the ones who have been holding the line the longest, it can be hard for even us. Things can get confusing at times. We can lose our balance and our footing. We can lose sight of our truth quite easily during these times because there are a lot of powers in play at this moment. No matter what you believe, there is a lot of shit happening on an energetic level in our 3D world, with the propaganda, with social media, with TV, with everything. There are layers and layers and layers of manipulation taking place, brainwashing, propaganda. And as bulletproof as you think you may be, this shit can seep in. It can seep into our unconscious minds, therefore shifting our belief paradigm ever so slightly in a way where we don't even notice. until we start to experience the fear in our bodies, the anxiety in our being. And this is what I've been observing a lot. It's like you can assume that you are really strong, but at the end of the day, you are a fucking human being with very human emotions. And we ride these energetic waves together as a collective. It's naive to think that we are not impacted, influenced, affected by what other people in our world are feeling or experiencing. And I mean, the footage alone, like the footage alone coming out of Ukraine, the footage alone of what's been going on around the world, that can feel so disheartening. I know for myself, it's brought me to my knees in prayer. There have been so many times over the past couple of years or 2.5 years now where I see something on social media that literally brings me to tears. Because this is not the world that I want to live in. This is not the world I choose to live in. And yet this is the world that we are living in. But there's something that we all have access to that can really support us during these times. And that is the power of discernment. And to really lean into the power of discernment in a time of illusion, this within itself can really support you in anchoring into your truth, your inner knowing, your intuition, what you know to be true. So let's talk about truth. The way that I see it is that truth is subjective, right? Truth varies depending on who's looking at what. There are certain things like, math where the truth is pretty fucking solid. It's an equation with an answer. We get it, right? But there are very few things in our world that don't have parallels. For example, science. The whole point of science was that it was open for debate, that we were open to be proven wrong or correct, that it was very fluid, that we get to experiment. And now all of a sudden, they've taken that away, saying that science, their form of science, what they're reporting, is the all known truth. When so many of us know that it's not and feel that it's not. So we have to remember that truth is subjective. It really depends on the entire makeup of a human being. My belief paradigm is going to be different than your belief paradigm. What I value in my life, what I hold most meaningful in my life, is going to be different than what you value in your life and what you hold most meaningful in your life. Therefore, truth is subjective. Our experiences differ. Our history differs. What we've endured in our lives differ. What we've seen in our lives differ. Right? So truth is subjective. And right now, with everything that's going on in the world, you have to be able to zoom out and look at the compound effect that this has had on humanity, on you, right? On me. We're not just talking about the news today and what's taking place today. We're talking about the compound effect of what's been going on for 2.5 years. And if you've been awake for longer than that, then the compound effect of what's been going on since 9/11. And what we're seeing is the majority of humanity in a reactive state. But again, this doesn't exclude you. I really invite you to look at all the ways in which you could be reacting right now. I'm super fucking aware of when I react. That awareness helps guide me back to my center because I'm not afraid to admit that I am in a reactive state. And this is where I see a lot of leaders going into states of misalignment, is when they're reactive, they're not either conscious of their reactive state, or they're not willing to admit that they're in a reactive state and retract what they've been sharing or how they've been showing up. Nothing good ever comes out of reactive states. Let us remember that. Nothing good ever comes out of reactive states. And that this is what those in perceived positions of power want. They want us to be in a reactive state. Why? Because when we are in a reactive state, we create an energetic frequency of fear. And then what does fear do? Fear puts us in a state of fight. That's, fighting from a reactive state, not a grounded state. Flight, where you just want to run away, distract yourself, do anything but look at what's going on in the world. Or freeze, where you just don't know what to do. So you're just going to stay safe in your little bubble and freak out. The other thing to understand about fear is that when you are in a state of fear, you are actually unable to access your ability to discern. And again, this is what we're talking about today, the power of discernment. This is why they want us in a state of fear, because when we are in a state of fear, we think irrationally, we're not able to discern. We lose all connection to our inner knowing. So as leaders, when you find yourself in that state, like when you start to feel it, like some of us don't like to admit when we're in fear. Some of us don't like to admit when we're in a reactive state, but you can feel it in your body, right? Sometimes it's this really high, uncomfortable vibration of anxiety, or a really dense, dark frequency of fear and density. You have to be aware of that and conscious of that in your body, because these are the things that are preventing you from really fully being able to discern what feels true and what doesn't. I don't want to say right or wrong, because even right or wrong, that's subjective. And I'm saying what feels true and what doesn't, because again, truth is subjective, right? So everyone's truth is going to be different. So I want to start with discernment and why it's important. Your power to discern is a superpower. It helps you anchor into what feels true. And again, the reason why you struggle to tap into that power is because you're probably in a state of reactivity. You're probably in a state of fear, and you're not doing anything about it, right? You're not taking time to honor your needs. You're not devoted to your rituals. You're not anchoring yourself into your presence, into your truth, into your inner knowing each and every single day, and possibly multiple times a day as needed, right? This is important. So you become triggered, and we're seeing this everywhere. And I am seeing leaders that I once respected in the online space reacting in highly triggered states. And I could be one of those people, because I'll look at something and I'll be like, what the fuck? And there's a part of me that just wants to grab my phone and fumble type with my thumbs some reactive fucking post. But then I remember that I am not here to react. I'm here to lead. And I want to do so from a state of groundedness. I want to discern what actually feels true and what doesn't. So I want to offer you 6 steps to make that happen, because this is a question that's been coming up a lot. It's a question that was asked in my Awake and Aware Telegram community. By the way, if you're not in my Telegram community, I invite you to join. Just go to rubyfremon.com/Telegram. And we call ourselves the Awake and Aware community, because this isn't just about me. This is about us. So 6 steps to utilize your power of discernment in triggering moments, because let's be real. We all experience triggering moments, and I myself can experience multiple triggering moments in each day. And I'm not afraid to admit it. This is why we need these 6 steps to be able to tap back into that power of discernment. So when you see something online that triggers you, or on the news that triggers you, or you read something that triggers you, or you are in a conversation that triggers you, the first thing you do, step 1, is step away from your phone, your laptop, your TV, or the conversation that you find yourself in. Just step away, because nothing good comes out of a reactive state. Nothing good ever comes out of a triggered state, right? Step 2, once you've stepped away, ask yourself, is my body in a state of contraction or expansion? And what I mean by that is contraction, you'll feel your body tense up. You may feel your shoulders roll forward in a protective position. You will feel the muscles tightening. You may feel your jaw clenching. You feel your stomach a little bit in knots. That is a state of contraction. A state of expansion is your shoulders are back, your heart is open, your stomach is relaxed, your face is relaxed. That's expansion. So if your body in that moment is in a state of contraction, that is a sign that something is misaligned with your inner knowing. Okay, that's a sign. Our bodies always know first. This is why I always tell my clients, like, tap into your body first. If you have trouble discerning through your mind or through your heart, just listen to your body, feel into your body, because your body always fucking knows. Okay, your nervous system knows. Step 3 then is to ask yourself what feels true and what doesn't feel true. So in that video you just watched, or in the conversation that you just had, or in the article you just read, whatever it is, what feels true about it and what doesn't feel true? And if it helps, write this down, right? Just 2 columns, what feels true, what doesn't feel true. Step 4 is to pause and just take 5 deep breaths. 5 deep inhales and exhales to reconnect to your body, to bring your body back to a state of homeostasis, to relax your nervous system so that you can connect to your inner knowing. And then step 5 is to ask yourself, what is my inner knowing telling me? What is my inner knowing telling me? And just listening. And for some people, your inner knowing is going to speak up loud and proud because you have cultivated a relationship with that voice and you're used to listening to it, to tapping into it. But for some of you, it may feel a little tougher to tap into that voice, to listen to the inner knowing, because your head keeps coming in, getting in the way, right? So if you're one of those people who struggles to tap into your inner knowing, go back to step 4, pause, and take 5 more deep breaths. And then ask yourself the same question again. What is my inner knowing telling me? And just repeat that as many times as it takes. And you're going to know it's the voice of your inner knowing because your body's going to be in a complete state of expansion. And then step 6 is to trust your inner knowing. It's like so many of us have this inner knowing, but not for whatever reason, for reasons I'm about to dive into, we don't trust it. Those reasons are we've been programmed to believe something different as a society. We've been taught to believe something different. Different belief paradigms have been projected upon us, and that's how we've been living our entire lives up until this moment, which causes us to rub up against the inner knowing that is our truth. So this is definitely a practice, and it's one that I invite you to be with every single day, especially as leaders, because we have to lead responsibly during these times, and not from a reactive state, and also not from the state of like, everything in the world is fine. Look at me doing my things. Everything's quote unquote normal. No, not that either. Not ignorance. Because in this case, ignorance is not bliss. It's bliss in your own little fucking world, but it's not bliss for your leadership. Okay. So that brings me to using discernment with responsibility. Because as a leader, if you are someone who rides in my camp of potent leadership, then you're here to lead with responsibility. That's super fucking important. So how do we use discernment with responsibility then? Well, it looks like this. Always, always, always do your own research. Always. From the very fucking beginning. I mean, I've said this a few times on the podcast. I'm super public about this. I'm not ashamed of it. But at the beginning of 2020, I held very, very different beliefs than I do today. And it didn't take long. 2020, the illusion started crumbling pretty fucking fast for me. And it was like summer of 2020 where my entire belief paradigm shifted. And it was because I continued to lean into my power of discernment and I started to do my own research. Now, what's important about doing your own research is that you look into all sides of the argument. And here's where people get it wrong. They'll only look and research into their side of the bias. They won't look at all sides. They won't look at all arguments. And it's really important for us to do that because as a leader, this is how we begin to amplify our sense of compassion for the world. Because this isn't about being right or wrong. This isn't about blaming other people. This isn't about telling other people that they're wrong and we're right. This is about utilizing our power of discernment to lead with responsibility. And to lead with responsibility means that you can stand by your inner knowing while having compassion for those who believe different. Okay, so do your own research and look into all sides of the argument. The second tip to use discernment with responsibility is to dig into your own fucking biases and get real about your current belief paradigm. I did this all year in 2020. Like I was writing my book, Potent Leadership, in 2020, and I rewrote the book because of this, because I had to get real about my own biases and where they came from. For example, I wrote a chapter on BLM because everything was exploding at that time, deleted, rewrote, because I had to get real about my biases. You have to understand what your biases are and dive deep into your current belief paradigm to understand where these beliefs come from. Are they actually your beliefs? Are they based on your values and what you hold meaningful to you? Or were they beliefs that were projected upon you or beliefs that you learned? And then the third tip, this is so fucking important. And I see this all over social media nowadays. It's to share publicly, especially on social media. Share only when you feel grounded in what you know from a responsive and not a reactive state. For example, when the war broke out in Ukraine, I didn't speak immediately. I didn't speak for 2 days because I wanted to do my own research, look into all sides of the argument, dig into my own biases. I wanted to lean into what feels true, what doesn't feel true. I want to get clear on that before I started to share. And even when I shared with compassion for all people and all beliefs. So share only when you feel grounded in what you know from a responsive and not a reactive state. And don't feel like you need to share immediately. You can acknowledge something is happening and say, I'm still trying to figure it out and doing my own research. But don't feel like you need to in order to be perceived as a leader. A true leader takes their time so that they share from a very grounded, responsible space. This time of illusion is real, and this is the world that we live in, and it's been the world that we've lived in our entire lifetimes. It's only that it's become apparent in these past few years for many of us that it feels like things are getting harder. It's not that things are getting harder. All of this shit was always present. We're just now privy to it. So today's potent truth. The power to discern between what is real and what is an illusion is within you. It's always been within you. And the only reason you experience confusion during this time of illusion is because of the amount of information that you continue to consume. Be aware of your own biases and ensure that your belief paradigm is aligned with what you truly value and not the illusion that we're currently working to shatter. Focus on anchoring into and trusting your inner knowing. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Potent Truth, where I am taking you on a journey to challenge illusion and lead with sovereignty. I invite all of you to join me in person, yes, in person, at Soul Revival 2022 in March. It's happening on March 26th in Tucson, Arizona, and it's hosted by Dr. Brett Jones. The link for Soul Revival 2022 is in the show notes, and there are virtual tickets available as well. So if you're unable to attend in person, please do attend virtually, because this is going to be a full day immersive, transformative experience. But if you get to come to Soul Revival in person, I'm so excited. We get to meet, we get to connect in real life, we get to dance, we get to cry together, we get to transform together. It's going to be an epic event. I also invite you to join my Awake and Aware community on Telegram to continue diving into important conversations like this. Just go to rubyfremon.com/Telegram. And of course, if you have yet to grab your copy of my book, please head to potentleadership.com and grab your copy today. It's available on Amazon and Audible. And please leave a rating and review. I cannot stress this enough. It really helps authors like me get the book out to more leaders around the world. Be sure to download a few episodes of Potent Truth and drop a rating and review on iTunes. This as well could help me out just to get the podcast out to more leaders around the world. You can also connect with me on social media as long as I am there. My handle is at I am Ruby. Instagram is where I like to jam. You can also text hashtag Potent Truth to 1781-336-0160 to start receiving weekly potent reminders. Thank you so much for your support with this podcast. Thank you so much for your support with this book. Please, please, please share this episode with a friend if it calls to you. Share photos of you with my book, and be sure to tag me at I am Ruby and use the hashtag Potent Leadership for a chance to get featured. And finally, make sure you check back on Monday for a brand new episode of Potent Truth. Aho, leaders.